Hello, good morning friends. Welcome to the weekly session of current affairs of Vajirao and Reddy. In today's class, I would say that the topics which we are going to cover are more of conceptual topics. In the last week's class, someone asked me about this pleasure of governor. I purposely did not pick up that topic last week because the issue of governor was only limited to Kerala last week, but this week it has also expanded to Tamil Nadu, and as promised, I've picked that up issue this week as well. Apart from it, we have a multiple reports by World Meteorological Organization. We will be discussing that. Then the very important EWS judgment by the Supreme Court which has come out, we will be discussing that as well. So a lot of conceptual things we will be discussing. So without wasting any time, let's start our session. Now, the first piece of news which we are going to cover is aceclofenac drug. Okay. Now, there is this institute, that is Indian Veterinary Research Institute, IVRI. It is located in Bareilly. Has recently demanded a ban on using this drug aceclofenac in the cattle. Actually, the cattle are given this drug. It is anti-inflammatory drug. Okay. And why IVRI has said that we should be stopping using of this drug in the cattle? Because this drug in the cattle, when it goes, it converts into diclofenac. Okay. Now, what is diclofenac? Diclofenac is harmful. Diclofenac is also a drug which was given to the cattle and it was banned in 2006. Why it was banned? Why it is harmful? Because see, when these cattle die, their remains, their carcasses, the vultures feed on them, and the cattle which had consumed diclofenac and the vultures feeding on their remains, the vultures population started to come down. Drastically it came down, and it is believed that it came down by 99%. So there was an emergency like situation. It took a while for the scientists to figure out that the population of vultures is reducing because of they are feeding on the carcasses of the cattle who has consumed diclofenac in their life. The diclofenac remained, and the diclofenac caused death in the vultures when they fed on the dead of these animals or these cattle. Now, since aceclofenac is also converting into diclofenac when it enters the body of the cattle, that is why IVRI is saying that we should stop this aceclofenac. The government has not yet taken a decision on it, but yes, there can be a decision on it anytime soon. And there was a question also in UPSC prelims way back, I think in 2013 or 14, on diclofenac. I think it was asked that why was diclofenac banned. So you need to take note of all such kind of news pieces as well. And here aceclofenac is converting into diclofenac automatically when it enters the body of the cattle. And since it is converting into diclofenac, the vultures will consume it and they will die. The aceclofenac is a prodrug of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. It is non-steroidal. It is not a steroid, but it is anti-inflammatory. Now, what is the problem with aceclofenac? I've discussed that problem with you, but yes, again, aceclofenac in water buffaloes poses the same threat to vultures as it is a prodrug of diclofenac. Aceclofenac turns into diclofenac soon after it enters the livestock. The vulture action plan, we have a vulture action plan. It was rolled out in 2020 and it is there in place till 2025. That is why it is called as the Vulture Action Plan 2020-2025. Also mentions the aceclofenac as a toxic along with other drugs like nimesulide and ketoprofen. What is diclofenac? Diclofenac is an anti-inflammatory drug. It was banned for veterinary use by the government of India in 2006. It was found to be the main cause of dramatic decline, that is 99% of the vulture population across Asia. The drug caused accidental poisoning of raptors. Raptors means these vultures, after they fed on carcasses of the cattle. It was accidental poisoning, it was not purposefully intention. Okay. So this is the issue with diclofenac, aceclofenac. Why? Because it is converting into diclofenac as it enters the body of the cattle. Now what is the vulture action plan 2022-25? There are two aspects in the this vulture action plan. First is drug control. It is to ensure minimum use of diclofenac to prevent the poisoning of principal food for vultures, the cattle carcasses with veterinary NSAIDs. And why is this done? This is done just to ensure that the vulture population does not come down. Okay. Then to carry out safely testing of available NSAIDs on vultures and develop new ones which do not affect the vultures, because we have to give anti-inflammatory drugs to the cattle also, but we have to test those anti-inflammatory drugs on vultures simultaneously, so that when the cattle consume these anti-inflammatory drugs and the vultures feed upon the remains of the cattle, because that is a natural process that will happen, so that these NSAIDs do not impact the vultures. So we have to do constant testing for that. Okay. And depending on the results of the testing, we have to introduce those kind of NSAIDs which do not have an impact on the vulture population. Now upscaling conservation, it is also part of the vulture action plan to establish additional conservation breeding centers along with vulture conservation centers, to implement the vulture safe zone program at 8 different places in the country where there are existing populations of vulture. Basically we have to create a conservation zone for them, so that they can thrive, they can their population can increase, which decreased drastically. And then there are two categories of vultures, the red-headed and the Egyptian vultures. For these two, we have to launch conservation plans separately. Okay. So this is the dynamics: diclofenac, aceclofenac, vultures, feeding on the carcasses of the cattle, why it is important. Now, the next piece of news is with respect to this lady called as Ela Bhatt, or her full name is Ela Ramesh Bhatt. This particular news piece is with respect to social issues, which is part of paper 1. And there is a topic in social issues paper 1, that women organizations in India. And this lady Ela Bhatt was known, she was a Gandhian. She was there with Mahatma Gandhi during the Ahmedabad mill strike, and she was very young at that time. And she opened up an organization for the women, and that organization was called as SEVA. In 1972. The full form of SEVA is Self-Employed Women's Association. Now she passed away last week, and she was she was an activist. She was working constantly for the upliftment of women, particularly those women who were self-employed. Self-employed women, for example, like those women who are house help, the maids in the house, okay? Those women who have their own small business, like a chai ki tapri or any small eatery, they are self-employed, but they are small businesses. Now, whenever you are part of any big organization, then you can form any big company, then you can form various organizations over there in those companies, like the Mazdoor Union. These are called as organizations. But what about women working in those women who are employed as self-employed workers, those who have their own businesses, small businesses, or those who are offering their services either on freelance basis or on whatever basis, like the maids? Their interests should also be promoted by an organization, and Seva was one such organization which was promoting the interests of the self-employed female workers. This organization was established in 1972 by Ela Bhatt. Let's see her life and let's see about this organization, which is important because UPSC can ask from here. If not in prelims, then for mains it is important. About her life, about Ela Bhatt's life, she headed the women's wing of Mazdoor Mahajan Sangh, the textile labor association founded by Anusuya Sarabhai and Mahatma Gandhi. She was the chairperson of Sabarmati Ashram Memorial and Preservation Trust. Also co-founded the Women's World Banking, a global network of microfinance. She was also nominated to Rajya Sabha, was a member of Planning Commission and was advisor to organizations like the World Bank. Means she had several distinctions attached to her name. In 2007, she joined the Elders. Elders is a group of world leaders founded by Nelson Mandela to promote human rights and peace. Now UPSC in prelims also can ask questions from here because Ela Bhatt was associated to such kind of organizations. She was the recipient of Padma Bhushan, Raman Magsaysay Award and Indira Gandhi International Prize for Peace, among many other awards. Then about Seva, the organization which she opened. Basically, she was targeting the poor women working in the unorganized sector and self-employed women. What is unorganized sector? In the economy, there are two kinds of sectors. First is organized, the second is unorganized. Organized sectors are those sectors which have been established by the law of the land and which are following all the norms and laws established by the government. Like for example, they are following all the labor laws, they are following the provident fund laws, etc. They are giving social security to their employees. But on the other hand is basically the unorganized sector, which is established by the law, according to the law, but all the norms of labor laws and all are not followed. Like a shop owner who's let's suppose who owns a big shop selling sarees, employing multiple employees, but the PF, provident fund of those employees are not being deducted. The employees of that particular firm are not under any insurance cover. They are just taking salary, bas, that is it. So that is unorganized sector, and 92% of India's workforce is employed in the unorganized sector. I am repeating this, that 92% of India's workforce is employed in the unorganized sector. So this ability to form organizations like Mazdoor Sangh and all are with the people working in organized sector. But what about people working in unorganized sector? So this Seva was for the people working in unorganized sector, established in 1972, and she argued that self-employed, like other workers, should have the right to organize. Seva was thus registered as a trade union in 1972. Over the years, Seva had organized women into self-reliant cooperatives of weavers, block printers, basket weavers, kerosene vendors, etc. Means these small petty works, the women who were employed in these kind of works, they could join Seva and further their rights. What would be the benefit of joining Seva? Actually, Seva opened up its own bank. It was a cooperative bank. We will discuss this. Then it opened up this, it rolled out an insurance policy for these unorganized these workers in unorganized sectors, particularly women. Here is the name of the bank which she opened. Micro banking it was, and it was a cooperative bank. I think the name of the bank is not here. No, the Seva Bank. Then an insurance program was also rolled out in 1992, and this program was also implemented by the Seva Bank. It was called as Vimo Seva. Life insurance, health insurance, widowhood, accidents and all were covered. It received help from the government of Germany. Seva is funded by the Indian government also, and Ford Foundation, ILO, International Labour Organization. All these organizations are funding the Seva. So in itself a prominent organization headquartered in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Okay. And the founder of Seva, she passed away. Very important from social issues point of view, that is GS1. Now next is the ballistic missile defense interceptor. Now first you need to understand that what is a ballistic missile. A ballistic missile is that missile which is following this parabolic route. If I fire from here, then it follows this route. Okay. Now the news piece is with respect to ballistic missiles defense interceptor. Interceptor, let's suppose an enemy, it fires a missile at us. How do we save ourselves? We need to fire another missile. That missile will intercept this ballistic missile which is coming towards us and will destroy it in the air. At what height it will destroy? That is the key. See, this is the missile fired, a ballistic missile. We fired a missile. Okay. This missile will intercept this particular missile over here. This is the intercept zone, and this intercept zone can be in the exo atmosphere or in the upper reaches of endo atmosphere. Exo atmosphere means at extreme heights, at very high altitude, after exiting the atmosphere. And endo atmosphere means inside the atmosphere, but that too at very high level, at very high altitude. Just after entering the endo atmosphere, it should be destroyed there. There is no point that this missile reaches here and then gets destroyed. It will cause damage to property as well as human life. So we have to intercept it there, either in the exo atmosphere or in the endo atmosphere as soon as it enters the endo atmosphere. By chance we missed there in the exo atmosphere, then we should have a backup also which intercepts at the endo atmosphere. So we have tested it. Okay. So India conducted the first successful flight test of ballistic missile defense, BMD it is called as, the interceptor missile from APJ Abdul Kalam Island of the Odisha coast. AD-1 is the name. Okay. Is a long range interceptor missile designed for both low exo-atmospheric and endo-atmospheric interception. Both kind of interceptions are possible. Okay. And interceptions of long range ballistic missiles. The missile is propelled by a two-stage solid motor and equipped with an indigenously developed advanced control system and navigation. Basically what happens when a missile is coming towards us, first of all we have to detect that a missile is coming towards us, and we have a setup that is AWACS, Airborne Early Warning Control System. It is Falcon AWACS which we have. Airborne Early Warning Control System. It triggers an early warning that a missile is coming towards you. Then a signal is sent to this interceptor missile that be ready to launch. Now this gets launched. Now there is this radar station which is tracking the missile coming, and this radar signal gives the signal to this launch vehicle, and due to the continuous inputs received by this radars, this missile intercepts it in the exo-atmosphere or in the endo-atmosphere and neutralizes it. This is basically ballistic missile defense interceptor. India's ballistic missile defense system. Basically, India's ballistic missile defense system program aims to provide air defense shield from all types of hostile missiles, even the nuclear ones. DRDO is developing a 2-tier BMD system to provide a multi-layered shield against ballistic missile attacks. What is the 2-tier system? It is intended to destroy an incoming missile at higher altitude in the exo-atmosphere. And if that miscarries, if there is any, if that interceptor missile does not strike or it misses, then the second tier comes into picture, that is a new missile will be launched which will strike the missile in the endo-atmosphere, because the missile which is coming to attack us by now have entered the endo-atmosphere. It will take place. So this is basically shielding us, this 2-tier system of DRDO. It is under development and it is very important. 2 tiers of BMD system. For the first tier we have Prithvi Air Defense. This can intercept and destroy missiles at the exo-atmosphere at the altitudes of 50 to 180 kilometers. It is based on Prithvi missile. Pradyumna ballistic missile interceptor is going to replace the Prithvi Air Defense. Once it is fully developed, it will be called as the Pradyumna. Then Advanced Air Defense Missile. The second layer is Advanced Air Defense Missile for lower altitude interception, that is in the endo-atmosphere. This is designed to knock out hostile missiles in the endo-atmosphere at altitudes of 15 to 40 kilometers. Here we have Akash surface to air missiles is part of AAD, Advanced Air Defense Missile. So Advanced Air Missile Defense Missiles for the endo-atmosphere, tier 2. Then we have the Prithvi Air Defense Missile, which will be replaced by Pradyumna, or which will be termed as Pradyumna. It is for the exo-atmosphere, the tier 1. So this is basically the ballistic air defense system or ballistic air defense mechanism which India is developing to shield proof itself from the incoming ballistic missiles. Incoming ballistic missiles, if they are nuclear, if they are carrying nuclear warhead, then also these missiles or these interceptor missiles will be able to tackle it. Okay. These missiles, apart from being called as interceptor missiles, are also called as anti-missile missiles. Okay. So whatever terminology comes, you should be aware of it. Then the next piece of news, the Pakistan PM meets the Chinese PM. Now these two countries, India not had good relations with these two countries, and these two countries know very well that India does not have good relations with both of us, and both of these countries are having good relations. The degree to which their relations strengthen will be a problem for us, because both of them are located in our neighborhood and both of them are trying to destabilize India time and again. Like, let's go to the this is Jammu and Kashmir. roughly if I draw a map, here is the Siachen glacier. This is POK roughly. This is IOK, Indian occupied Kashmir. This is China. Okay. Now Pakistan has a territorial boundary with China only from here. If we take POK from Pakistan, it will lose this boundary. In the last week, I think we covered this on the basis of the statement released by Rajnath Singh. So this is very important for Pakistan as well, POK, because it shares a territorial boundary with China, and over here we have the Shakhs Gum Valley. Shakhs Gum Valley has been gifted to China from Pakistan, by Pakistan, a territory which is above the Siachen glacier, and that is a problem. Apart from it, China and Pakistan, you might have heard about this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. It passes, it is basically coming from the Xinjiang province of China, passes through the POK and ends on the, I would say, Karachi port, and one of the leg goes to the Gwadar port as well. All in all, our focus is here that it is passing from POK, and this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative of China. What is Belt and Road Initiative? We will discuss in this topic only. But as of now, you understand that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is part of a very large project of China, that is Belt and Road Initiative, and this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is passing through the POK. Earlier, India was also part of China's this very ambitious program, Belt and Road Initiative, but in 2019, when China announced this economic corridor, which was passing through POK, India backed out of BRI. India said that we are not going to be part of BRI because you, means China, are not respecting our territorial integrity. Why India was saying that you are not respecting our territorial integrity? Because this POK is a territory which is claimed by India as its own territory, but administered by Pakistan. And that is why the name goes Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Okay. So let's begin this topic. A brief background has been laid. Okay. Now, the Pakistan PM Shehbaz Sharif, he went on a 2-day official visit to China, and he is the first foreign leader to visit China since President Xi Jinping won a 3rd term in office. This also we discussed last week, that how elections in China are conducted. Now the key highlights. During this visit, the two leaders agreed to strengthen the all-weather friendship and the US $60 billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is under construction, I would say. It has already been conceptualized. It is now being implemented. The Chinese president told the visiting Pakistani Prime Minister that he was deeply concerned about the security of Chinese personnel working on the projects in the country. In the very recent past, a few Chinese people were killed by attacks in Pakistan. Those were natural because in Pakistan the security situation everybody knows. So a big concern with respect to China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is the security of the Chinese personnel who are working in Pakistan for implementing CPEC. China also stressed Pakistan was a priority in China's neighborhood diplomacy, and China offered an additional $68 million as in flood relief. The floods in Pakistan, we discussed that as well. Increasing ties between China and Pakistan. Over the years, China has expanded its footprint in Pakistan, and no other country apart from China has done that in Pakistan, in South Asia. Now in Pakistan, Pakistan is also in this situation that it is having good relations with China. It wants to have good relations with US also. But the US is pressing Pakistan to, have or to come on a back foot with respect to its relations with China. Now India comes into picture over here, and India has a good relation with USA, but India also has a good relations with Russia also. But overall, if we see, we have the largest trade with USA and all. Relations are good. Some political differences are there with respect to Russia. So we can, put pressure on Pakistan via USA that, reduce your engagements with China. So here we can play this political card of ours. The latest example of growing China-Pakistan relations was that in the Pakistan Day parade in Islamabad in late March 2022, we saw multiple, I would say, military equipments and missiles and all which were imported from China. For example, the J-10CE multi-role fighter aircraft, battle tanks, self-propelled howitzers and air defense equipments. China's supply of advanced military equipments to Pakistan also include warships and submarines. But don't worry, these are Chinese products. And China is not known for producing quality military equipments. The countries which are known for producing quality military equipments: Israel, USA, Russia. And we import from these three. Okay, we do not import anything from China. Then just how close Sino-Pakistani ties have become can be seen in a 33-point document issued by the two countries in February 2022. Now, you don't need to understand, you don't need to go into the details that what is this 33-point agreement. You don't need to, mug up the points of that 33-point agreement, because India is nowhere involved. China and Pakistan are involved. So you just need to note this, that 33-point agreement is an agreement between China and Pakistan which is meant to strengthen their bilateral ties, and that is a challenge for India, that is a problem for India. And you can mention this in your answer scripts if you are writing mains, or if you are writing answers for mains, that the 33-point agreement is something which is problematic for India. Through this document, the two sides emphasize their support for each other's core interests. Then, rising concerns for India. What are the rising concerns for India? The growing Sino-Pakistani cooperation has set off alarm bells in India. Obviously, it will. And the Chinese arms and money continue to flow into Pakistan. The Indian military, which is preparing for a potential two-front conflict or two-front war with China and Pakistan, is also concerned about the possibility of China establishing more robust logistic and basing infrastructure in the region. The central pillar of the relationship between China and Pakistan nowadays is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. And this CPEC is a $60 billion project, and CPEC is part of Belt and Road Initiative. Okay. What is CPEC? It is a series of long-term infrastructure, transportation and energy projects valued at $62 billion as of 2020. Means long-term infrastructure like roads, railways, ports, all these will be developed by China in Pakistan. Transportation facilities will be there. Then energy projects like electricity generation and all these will be established by China in Pakistan. Okay. CPEC is opposed by India as this project not is passing through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Okay. And China continues to support Pakistan based terrorists, which we covered in the UNSC articles before Diwali, that how China blocked or how China I would say refused to accept people as terrorists in United Nations Security Council. Okay. So, this is a continuous practice, and since June, from June till September or October this year, 4 times or 3 times China has blocked such kind of resolutions to be passed in UNSC, okay, against the terrorists which are based in Pakistan. Now, let us come to the main topic, that is what is OBOR or Belt and Road Initiative. OBOR stands for One Belt One Road. Now, this project One Belt One Road was announced in 2013. That time also Xi Jinping was the president of China, and this is the 3rd term which he is into. And basically this One Belt One Road was a very ambitious project of China, through which China wanted to create intercontinental connectivity. Intercontinental connectivity means China wanted to create connectivity between Asia, Africa, Europe. They wanted to connect Asia, Africa and Europe. How it wanted to connect? Through overland routes. Overland routes means rails and road connectivity it wanted to establish, and through the sea routes. Why China did this? China wanted to do this because China, as we all know, is the factory of the world. A lot of products are manufactured, from the smallest of the smallest product you see, if you consider a needle, to a big crane, everything is manufactured in China. And China wanted to export its products to the entire world. How will it export? If it will have these established routes, trade routes. And China in the ancient times was known for producing silk, and European countries basically imported a lot of silk from China, and the route through which silk was imported was called as the Silk Route, the ancient Silk Route. So, China basically wanted to establish connectivity with Europe now in the 21st century by bringing into picture the ancient Silk Route. It said that in ancient times also this Silk Route was there, where we used to export silk to Europe. Now, apart from silk, we will export other things also which are manufactured in China. We are now the factory of the world. So, people were terming this One Belt One Road as the revival of the ancient Silk Route. But its name was changed from One Belt One Road to Belt and Road Initiative. In 2016. Why this name was changed? Because this One Belt One Road was giving a picture of China in which China wants to dominate. China wants to make everything or every territory as one under its control. There was this psychological, I would say, disillusionment attached with this word, One Belt One Road. So China said that, oh, this is spoiling our project, let's rename it, and China renamed it to One Belt and Road Initiative. The belt basically refers to the Silk Road Economic Belt, which is a series of overland routes reminiscent of the Silk Road of antiquity or the ancient times. So, the belt is road routes, over the land routes. Over the land routes can be road connectivity or rail connectivity. And on the other hand, the road is basically maritime silk route or maritime trade routes. Don't confuse it, because UPSC is going to can ask questions on these type of terminologies. The road here refers to the maritime silk road. It is basically the sea trade routes. And belt is actually the road on the land or the rail connectivity on the land. So this is the project Belt and Road Initiative, or the One Belt One Road. We will see through the image. Where has the image gone? Yes, this is the image. So China wanted to establish this connectivity in this 3 continents, that is Asia, Europe and Africa. Why? Because factory of the world, lot of products here manufactured. If trade routes are established, the trade will increase and their products will flush in all those markets. So the road, if I talk, as I told you, the road is actually not the road, it is the maritime silk route. So it is from here. See, India was also part of it. Kolkata port it was coming, Colombo, then Africa, then going through this then entering Europe. Here we have this Suez Canal over here. Then the belt, over the land connectivity. This region, the Central Asian region, then Russia is also part of it, then it enters Europe, and finally it ends up in Rotterdam, that is Netherlands. So China was also planning to start a train which started from here and went to Rotterdam. Now this gives a more clear picture, like you are seeing these black lines over here, these are rail connectivity lines. Okay. You are seeing this orange and red lines, these are road connectivity lines. And multiple, I would say, economic corridors were part of the Belt and Road Initiative. And one such economic corridor is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which began here in Kashgar and ended in Gwadar Port. So this is part of the larger BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, and this is passing through POK, and that is why India in 2019 has said that we are not going to be part of BRI. And now you see, no, Kolkata port is not here in this picture, okay, because of this CPEC passing through this. So it was a very ambitious project of China. The deadline to complete this project which China has set for itself is 2049, and 2049 also marks the 100 years of independence of China, or 100 years of formation of China. So many, I would say, countries will be part of it. More than 100 countries will be part of this project. Very ambitious. Some political experts have termed it a utopian project, which is not going to be a reality, because to bring on board so many countries, to negotiate with so many countries, bring them on board, it is a difficult task, and especially with the fact, or especially with the image that China is carrying. China is known to lay debt traps. What happened in Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka was in a debt trap. The Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, this port over here, was part of this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Oh, sorry, not China-Pakistan, but Belt and Road Initiative. And it is disbursing loans to the countries to develop infrastructure, and then putting them in debt traps So this image of China is already existing, and which makes it more difficult for the China to implement this project. Last year, I think 2021, according to a Chinese media report, the Chinese government, puts up 10 most priority or 10 most important agendas for itself. And 2016, 17, 18, BRI was at the top position for China's government, that this is the most prioritized, I would say, sector, or this is the most prioritized agenda for us. But in 2021, Belt and Road Initiative was at the 7th position. This in itself testifies that Belt and Road Initiative has come on a back burner. However, it does not mean that Chinese are not pursuing this ambitious project. They are still pursuing, but the level of aggressiveness, the degree of aggressiveness might have come down by which they are pursuing. Okay. So this is still in picture, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, because when the Pakistani Prime Minister visited, or the Pakistani President visited or Prime Minister visited, तो बात हुई थी इस बारे में, they talked about it. Now concerns, poor track record of Chinese construction companies, they are known for substandard construction and all. Then another challenge or concern is Russia believes that Belt and Road Initiative will reduce its sphere of influence in the Central Asian region. As we saw in the previous slide, that it is passing through the Central Asian region. This is the Central Asian region. Central Asian region comprises of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. And Russia has a very good amount of influence on that region, and that region is a resource rich region. Resource rich region means natural gas resources are ample over there. So Russia believes that its influence on the Central Asian region will reduce if this Belt and Road Initiative will be implemented. So Russia is also not too much, in favor of Belt and Road Initiative, which is a big concern for China. Then the risk of falling into a debt trap. Sri Lanka is a classic example. And credit imperialism. Credit imperialism is China at times charges exorbitant rate of interests on loans which it disburses, especially on those loans which are taken to set off the previous loans, which lead to debt traps. So these are the following concerns with respect to BRI. So, this is the entire issue covered. Pakistani Prime Minister visiting China, a concern for India. A concern for India is not Pakistani PM visiting China, but the growing partnership of China and Pakistan, which are not good which are not at good terms with India. Both of these. So India is preparing itself for a two-way war. It can be a possibility that simultaneously we are at war with Pakistan and China. We are preparing ourselves for that. And at the core of China-Pakistan relations is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a $62 billion project in which China will be investing in infrastructure in China or in Pakistan. It will be investing in connectivity projects. It will be investing in industries. It will be investing in energy projects over there. So this is something which is at the core of the relations, and China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is just a part of Belt and Road Initiative. So we've covered all these things. Okay. Now next piece of news, US Federal Reserve raises the interest rate. Now when I talk about US Federal Reserve's raising the interest rate, basically we need to understand this topic from some basics are required. US Federal Reserve is equivalent to RBI in India, the central bank, the bank of all the banks. And RBI's one of the major responsibility is to roll out monetary policy. Monetary policy is with respect to the supply of money in the economy, and supply of money determines inflation. If the supply of money is more, there will be more inflation. If the supply of money is less, there will be less inflation. This is a basic concept of economics. Okay. To elaborate a bit on this, why supply of money leads to inflation, or why increased supply of money leads to inflation. Like, let's suppose, just an example, we are 20 people living away from our houses. You've come here in Delhi or anywhere to prepare for civil services, and your fathers or your parents, they send you 10,000 rupees a month, and in that 10,000 rupees a month you have to do all your expenses. Now, every one of us has this habit of drinking juice every day. Okay. So this juice wale bhaiya is there in front of our residential campus, and we go there and we drink juice, and he serves juice for 20 rupees a glass. Now he knows that these 10 people to definitely will come. Now what happens? Some of you, like let's suppose 3 of you, there is increased money supply. You start getting 15,000 a month from your parents, and that juice wale bhaiya, he is able to get less fruits from which he will produce that juice. So the 3 of you will say that bhaiya, we have more money. You know that you have more money. Bhaiya, you now give us juice. You charge 25 or you charge 30 for the same juice. We'll pay, because you have increased money with you. The value of money has reduced for you due to increased supply of money, and the increased supply of money has caused inflation, because you said that juice wale bhaiya, you start giving us juice for 30 rupees, not a problem, we'll pay you. So the juice wale bhaiya will smartly increase the price for everybody, not only for those people who are having increased amount of supply. And this is how increased amount of money has led to inflation. Increased supply of money is, I would say, not always leading to inflation, but most of the times, yes, it is leading to inflation. The case in which increased money supply will not lead to inflation will be when the productivity also goes up, when the goods and services also they are being produced more. So with the increased supply of money, production is more, productivity is more, so there will be a match always. Now let's suppose the juice wale bhaiya had ample fruits. The juice wale bhaiya will say that okay, not I'll charge 20 only, or not 30, I'll charge 25, because I have to see other people also. So it is always better if money supply is increasing and productivity is also should increase. Then that is very healthy for any economy, or very, very healthy for any country. But if money supply is increasing and productivity is not increasing at that level, there is a mismatch, then there will always be inflation. Because the ones who will have increased supply of money, they will have increased spending capacity, and increased spending capacity will lead to inflation. And this is something which is happening in the entire world right now. The productivity is not increasing, whereas the money supply is ample. And there are other reasons which has caused inflation, like the increase in the global prices of crude oil due to this Russia-Ukraine war. Then some I would say supply chain disturbances are also there till now, which has caused inflation. And similarly, this inflation is there in US, and it is the responsibility of US Federal Reserve to control inflation. Here in India, we have set a target for ourselves in this range, that the inflation should remain in this range, 2 to 6%. There, US Federal Reserve has kept a target for itself of 2% in USA. Now what happens? How US Federal Reserve will contain inflation? It will increase the Fed rates, which is equal to the repo rate in India. Equivalent to, not equal to, equivalent to. Like when RBI has to contain inflation, it increases the repo rate. Increases the repo rate means, all the loans and all the lendings and all will be now, you will be getting higher rate of interest if you invest. So this is just a signal by the central banks that we are increasing the rate of interest on any investment instrument. Means earlier if you used to get an interest rate of, let's suppose 7%, now you will get an interest rate of 8%. So what people will do? People will gather their money and invest in that. And what will happen? The money supply in the economy will reduce. When the money supply in the economy reduces, inflation will be tackled. This is the basic, I would say, methodology, or this is the basic assumption behind increasing the interest rate. And similar step has been taken by the Fed Reserve, US Federal Reserve. It has increased the federal rate of interest, and this it has done for the 4th consecutive time, because USA is reeling under inflation since very long, like India, like any other country in the world. But the story does not end over here. US Federal Reserve increasing the rate of interest or increasing the Fed rates has a profounding impact on the Indian economy. We have to understand this. Now, when the US Federal Reserve's this rate has been increased, many foreign investors, foreign investment in India comes through 2 routes. First is FDI, foreign direct investment, in which the foreign investors come with their money and invest in creating infrastructure over here, generating jobs, like for example Microsoft or Google, or for the example Honda. They have come here, they set up their factories, they set up their machinery, now they are producing over here and selling over here and selling abroad from here. The second type of foreign investment which comes is FPI, foreign portfolio investment. This investment is not in infrastructure or generating jobs, this is nothing like that. FPI is simply investment by the foreign investors in the stock market of the country. Stock market means investment in shares, investment in bonds, like this. And whenever they want, they can take their money and go to some other place also. This is more volatile FPI as compared to FDI. So, when these people who have invested in FPI, they are also watching that Fed has increased the rates, they will pick their money from India and they will take it to USA and invest it over there, because they are having good returns over there. And this is called as flight of capital, and they are taking dollars from India. So the availability of dollars with India reduce, and when availability of dollars with India reduces, it will, weaken the rupee. We have now less dollars as compared to we have earlier. We have less dollars as compared to that situation that was there before this flight of capital. And now rupee has weakened. Now when rupee has weakened, we are, importing a lot of crude oil. So we have to pay in dollars. Dollar availability is less. We have to shed in more money, more rupees for $1. Earlier it was 70 rupees, now it is 80 rupees. So earlier let's suppose one barrel of oil was let's suppose $1. One barrel of oil is equal to $1 rupees. Just an example, just imagine. So we were paying 70 rupees for one barrel of oil. Now we are paying 80 rupees for importing one barrel of oil. This has caused inflation in India. Because, prices of oil, everything depends on that. The inflation largely depends on that. So this has a profounding impact on the Indian economy as well. You have to understand this topic from this viewpoint. So let's go back to the topic. Recently, the US Federal Reserve announced its fourth consecutive 75 basis point interest rate hike, which brought the benchmark federal funds rate to the rate of 3.75 to 4%. US Federal Reserve is the central bank of USA. The Fed also delivered a sharp tone in favor of over tightening in a bid to contain inflation. The Fed said that we have done this over tightening to contain inflation. 75 basis points simply means 0.75%. Why were the rates hiked? Obviously, inflation in the US remains elevated, reflecting supply and demand imbalances. However, the central bank of US only has tools to control the demand side. Demand side means, raising interest rate is a monetary policy instrument that typically helps suppress the demand. If the supply of money will be more, the demand will be high. And if the supply of products will be less, then that will cause inflation. Now they reduced the supply of money so that the demand will reduce. Now people will have less money, they will demand less. This is the basic assumption. So that is why US Federal Reserve can only tackle the demand side. It cannot tell the factories to produce more. It cannot tell the people to produce more. But it can help, or it can, work with the supply of money with the people, the availability of money with the people, which will create demand, high demand or less demand. Impact on India. On the Indian market, the Fed's continuous rate hike does not augur well for emerging markets like India. An increase in the US interest rate result in an outflow of funds to the US markets, flight of capital, okay? And it leaves the Indian stock exchange and the Indian currency under pressure. It contributes to the volatility. Equity markets are likely to see increased volatility. Then on the Indian rupee, what impact does it have? Impact on the exchange rate of Indian rupee against the dollar, because Indian rupee weakens, and that is why such kind of statements come that the Indian rupee is not weakening, the dollar is strengthening, because it is not in our hands actually. What the US Federal Reserve wants, it will do, because it has to take care of its own economy as well. So these are some things which are out of our control. Then a weaker rupee should help Indian exporters at some level. When rupee gets weakened, Indian exporters get benefited. How? Let's suppose I am exporting this pen. Okay. I used to my export price is $2 for this pen. Okay. Now I exported 1 pen, I got $2. $1 is equal to 70 rupees, and equivalently I got 140 rupees for these 2 pens which I exported. Now the rupee has weakened. $1 is equal to 80 rupees. Now I export these 2 pens. The same price I am keeping, $2. But now when I exchange these $2, I get 160 rupees. So I am benefited. So weakening of rupee will benefit the exporters and harm the importers, because importing cost increases, like the oil companies in India. Okay. Now, but to the exporters also it will benefit up to a certain extent only. Why? Because there is recession in the international market. What if there is no demand of your product in the international market despite of the fact that rupee has weakened? You will not get those $2 because people are not consuming that much. So this is I would say one aspect to this as well. Now in the doubt clearing session today, here's a task for you, that you have to explain what recession is. I will be asking, you have to raise hand and you have to explain that what do you mean by this term recession. Then the next piece of news is with respect to this Ministry of Education, or I would say index, Unified District Information System for Education Plus. It is called as UDSE Plus. The Ministry of Education, it recently released the detailed report on Unified District Information System for Education Plus. UDSE Plus it is called as. What is UDSE Plus? UDSE Plus is a system of online data collection. Earlier it was called UDSE. Okay. But why this plus was added? Because the data collection was made electronically, or was made by using laptops and digital technology, I would say. It is done away, or it has overcome the issues related to the erstwhile practice of manual data filing in paper format. Everything is done electronically. The data collection and all is done in electronically. Now we have collected additional data on digital library, peer learning, hard spot identification, number of books available in school libraries and all. The schools have been judged on this basis. Okay. So what are the findings of UDSE Plus? According to the report, the gross enrollment ratio has improved at primary, upper primary and higher secondary levels of school education in 2021 to 22 as compared to 2021. Then in this year 21 to 22, the pupil teacher ratio means per teacher how many students are there. Okay. Per teacher how many pupil are there to learn. The lesser this ratio is, the better it is, because if a teacher is teaching 500 students, then the impact of that teaching, or the impact of that education, and the impact of that education when a teacher is teaching, let's suppose 50 students, will be different. Okay. So the pupil to teacher ratio, it stood at 26 for primary, means for every 26 students studying in the primary sector, or the primary I would say division, 26 there is one teacher for 26 students, 19 for upper primary, 18 for secondary and 27 for higher secondary, showing an improvement since the last survey. Then 12.29 crore girls are enrolled in primary to higher secondary, which is an increase of 8.19 lakh girls as compared to the enrollment of girls in 2020 and 21. This is something which is good. More than 20,000 schools were closed down in the pandemic. Obviously, it had to happen. Only 44.85% schools had computer facilities, while nearly 34% had internet connection. Only 27% schools have special toilets for children with special needs, basically disabled or differently abled. So these were the findings in UDSE plus. UDSE stands for basically Unified District Information System for Education, plus stands for because the data collected for this is in electronic mode now. Next piece of news, RISAT-2 satellite. Basically ISRO launched this satellite in 2009 and it was called as the eyes of Indians in the sky. This satellite was launched in the aftermath of the 26/11 attacks to improve the surveillance of the Indians on the borders, in the oceans and all. So this satellite has completed its tenure. Actually it was launched for 4-5 years only initially, but with more and more efficient usage of the fuel which was available, it extended to so many years, 2009 to 2022, almost 13 years. Okay. So it landed in Jakarta, Indian Ocean region. Then RISAT-2 satellite launched on 20th April 2009 by PSLV C-12 rocket. Okay. Following the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, it was India's first eye in the sky to keep surveillance on the country's borders and oceans. It also used to track enemy ships at sea. The main sensor of RISAT-2, which was able to observe all weather conditions day and nights, was Israel Aerospace Industries X-band synthetic aperture radar. It carried 30 kgs of fuel for an initial designed life of 4 years. But due to proper maintenance of orbit, mission planning by the spacecraft operations team at ISRO and economic usage of the fuel, RISAT provided very useful, or RISAT proved to be a very useful payload for 13 years. Okay. So more than 3 times its life it existed and it was revolving in an orbit. So it kept on revolving by its own inertia. Fuel was very less needed. So the diligent uses of the fuel by the team resulted into this increased life of RISAT. Okay. So let's take a break, and after the break we will continue with this very important topic, pollution in Delhi. Okay. We all are suffering from it. We are in Delhi. Okay. We will be dealing with it and what the government has done for it, why this pollution is there, and then we will be discussing other important topics like EWS quota and all in the second half. Stay tuned and find out what recession is.